Hi, welcome back for another episode of Let's Talk About It. My name is Amy, and I'm here with Filip Stojkovski. Very excited to have a chat with him about the current state of AI in SOC. So, Philip, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming. Could you introduce yourself?
Hey, me, thanks for having me. So, yes, I've been in the cybersecurity industry for 15 years now. Worked mainly on the, I would say, security operations side. So, started for a SOC analyst and then moved through the ranks through the years. Recently, I'm working at Sneak, where I'm leading their security operations engineering. And also, I'm running my SecOps Unpacked, which is a blog as well, podcast and research on the security operations space. So probably that's from where most people know me about.
Yeah, awesome. And so you are then qualified to talk about the current state of autonomy and what is going on with SOC platforms and implementing AI right now, which I think is really interesting because it's kind of a newer thing that we're in kind of rolling out. People are talking about it more and more, and there's a pretty wide range of adoption at the moment in terms of actually getting AI into SOC platforms and or into the SOC in general, and what they're using it for. So let's start by talking a little bit about the reality of what people are facing. So, if you were to pretend that I was a SOC leader who is either has an automation platform already, and is looking to implement AI, or is starting from scratch and just saying like, "Hey, what's on the market out there today?" Um, what can you say about the kind of choices that people are making today in terms of implementing AI and evaluating it from the start?
Sure. So first, I would say it's quite exciting time to be in the SOC space because we are in that, I would say, transformation period. So many people that have been in this industry for a while that they know it happened first with the cloud and the SaaS, and now we have the whole AI boom. So I think a lot of innovation is happening around AI and specifically how we can apply it to the security operation space. As far as what options they have, so recently I was writing a blog, and how I split the field is that there are three sides. So we have the left side of the IR cycle, where we have all the detection, engineering, data ingestion, everything that you can imagine that usually traditional SIEM will provide you. Then we have the middle side, which is more concentrated on the pure investigation. So as soon as we get an alert, an event or signal, we need to do the investigation. And investigation is usually split on two parts. The initial investigation, which we know for many years as tier one analysis, is just the basic analysis, gathering context and understanding, is this a real threat or not? And once you have a confirmation that something is potentially malicious, then you have, I would say, the real investigation happening, which is more, let's say, in depth and is going more to incident response, handling security incidents, and so on. Which brings me to the right side of the thing, which is mainly how we remediate or we contain specific incidents. So it's the usual stuff that you would do once you identify a specific threat and you want to get rid of it. So the AI SOC platforms, how they're split their capabilities, it's they serve one of these purposes. Some of them they serve all three, some they serve one or two. Where we all started, like when the whole AI SOC thing started like 2 years ago, we've seen a lot of those starting specifically in the middle because it was, I would say, the easiest one to tackle. Now we start to see more the shift left side, and I'm not referring here to the software development lifecycle, but it's happening now for security operations. And as well on the right side, where we have platforms that are offering you pretty good analysis and how you can use AI for that, but as well to build automated response actions. So I think that's where we stand, and the option is depending for what you want and for what you're ready to use AI.
Right. And
Uh,
and like you said in your blog post, I read that is not a lot of companies are offering all three. So you kind of have to make a decision on where you want to stand in terms of your focus for implementing AI into your SOC platform, either left, middle, or right. When people are first starting out, it would you say it would be the easiest to be middle because it is, like you said, maybe easier to implement those kinds of things?
So I would say yes, and in the middle side probably you'll see the fastest return on investment because then the next level of implementation that we are looking is, I would say there are three layers. So we have plug and play platforms, and this is where most of the pure play, I would say, middle investigation platforms live. So which means they live on top of your SIEM or your detections engine, and they will just do the basic investigation analysis. Of course, they have like knowledge graphs that they try to understand your environment, gather some more details around that. But most of these, yes, these are plug and play solution. You connect it to your APIs, your SIEMs, and so on, and it starts to work. But the downside is there, you don't have a lot of options to customize it. So even though now we start to see more and more of that auditability and transparency on what actions they were taken and when, but yes, that's the perfect, I would say, use case for going the middle side, and you have those plug and play. Then you have the ones that they let you customize everything. And when they let you customize from building the workflows, the type of alerts that you want to handle, I think this is working quite well for large enterprises and very large teams because I've been in many organizations, and the ones that they had very large teams, almost nothing that comes out of the box it would work because you have so much custom processes. Your security operations program is quite mature. That means that you have a lot of playbooks and you want to customize. You have engineering team. Of course, that will take way longer time to set it up, to build it, and so on. And then you have the third one, which is, I would say, the hybrid platforms, which they give you some options that you can do out of the box analysis. And when you want to take control over the platform, then you have the option to customize it as well. And if someone is asking me like what you would pick today, in most cases I would pick this hybrid because I would want to have to some level like good templates and some out of the box capability. But once I have it set it up and it's been running for a while, I gain trust to the platform. Then I would want to go and build some custom stuff, something that is a bit more relevant, those complex use cases.
Yeah. So we have to have this fight between control and customizability. And I mean, let's be real, also price point, right? That's why a lot of the bigger enterprises can customize everything because they can afford to pay the bigger price tag to be able to do that. I have a lot of conversations with people that come up to our booth when we go to these trade shows, and they always ask about these kinds of questions too, like about the customizability, about the amount of effort that it takes, about the maintenance of building the automations, and all of these things. All of these things, I think, are not new in our discussions of implementing automation, right? So, do you think that it changes the way that people evaluate platforms with the AI involved?
I would say yes, it's changing a bit the way because also the depending who is seeing the most value right out of the platform. If you have like plug and play solution, what I was mentioning, the first ones that they would say see that because the AI it's like force multiplier, and that's why we want it in first place because you can see that the team of five can make it easily a team of 20 people if you implement it and use it right.
Hmm.
But going back, yes, who will see the most ROI on it, it will be the SOC analysts. But then on the other side, the ones where you have a bit more customization and you have security engineering team, then they'll be the ones that they'll see the first return on investment because they'll be, okay, now we can build way faster automations. It's easier to maintain them, but it's not as fast as just getting a platform that can handle any alert that comes because still you will need to build them and analysts they'll see it later. So definitely you need to is changing the way that you evaluate the platforms because depending who is, I would say, the first hand user. So if you just plug and play it and the analysts use it right away, is different platform that you would want. If you have engineering team, as you said, larger budget and mature program, then the engineering team they would go after the platform that serves their return on investment better.
For sure. I mean, in an ideal world, we want to have ROI for everybody. But for sure, I think that piece about like the analysts being able to have that immediate ROI is really key when you're like ingesting so many alerts, and then the engineering team having a little bit more value from not having to do so much maintenance later on, I think for sure. Can you say anything more about the benefits that a security analyst would have versus like an automation engineer, for example, who is actually having to maintain those playbooks, and in what kind of ways their job can change with AI in the SOC?
Sure, sure. That's a really good question. One of my favorite ones, especially that now many also they're asking me that because they're afraid of like how AI is changing their job. Because in the end, that's what it is like you're getting a new technology, so it's changing the way that you're working. So if you're going like on what it will change for the security analyst, how I'm seeing, and I mean, I've seen firsthand as well because I've implemented some of these platforms already, is that is moving all that initial triage and analysis. I would say uh, it's actually eliminating it. So, in other words, their job is changing. So, they need to do more in depth analysis, more maybe malware reverse engineering, running security incidents. So, that's how it's changed. So, they're getting outside of that, like, boring repetitive job that everyone hates, that we have been talking for so long. That's the issue, and that's why we cannot retain talent. So that's the first thing. Yes, so they'll have a bit more time to do other stuff, but they need to adapt fast because you cannot just, okay, now you let the platform run and you just wait to see what are the results, but you're not adjusting with and learning new things that you need to do. Something new that comes with the roles in general, the security analyst, is that they won't be anymore just, I would say, running the incidents. They need to fine tune the platform because many of these platforms will remove a lot of false positives, and then you have a lot of inconclusive stuff that you need to handle, and then you need to see what actions did the platform take. Is the confidence level and the trust that you have in the right way? How you can fine tune it so it's better because it's constantly learning, so you don't want to poison your data set and have some, I would say, conclusions or resolutions that are inaccurate and they're feeding back to the LLM and then will provide you, let's say, results. On the other side, on the security engineering, I would say how it's changing is that probably is not that relevant, I would say, now to custom code all of these automations. So it's been easier because now you can explain everything in plain English and it will build, in other words, automation for you. You need to get adjusted to work with agents and to understand the power of agents and what they can do for you. And then maybe as you free up some of your time and it's faster to build this automation, the platforms they're building, I would say, the end-to-end workflow for you to some level, then you can concentrate to build some other custom tools for edge cases that maybe they were on the backlog since you started your job and you want to tackle them. So that's, I think, where is the main ROI. And I see also like most of these like security engineering and security analyst roles merge into one. I think the future of the SOC it
Mm.
will be more engineering oriented rather than analyst oriented.
Yeah, I feel a lot of pushback into the narrative of like AI is replacing analysts. But it is true in some levels, right? Like level 1 is never going to be the same as it used to because AI is taking over a lot of that manual triage. So we simply don't need it anymore. And they have to morph their job into something new. And there's always going to be entry level positions, but it's just going to look differently than it used to. I've been using this analogy of introducing phones into society. You know, when in the olden days, in the olden days, when people didn't have cell phones, right? They would have
Mhm.
messengers or something to send messages to people. I don't know, by like horse-drawn carriage. Who knows how that went down? But and then people introduced phones, and then only the rich people would have phones for a while. And then more and more people started having phones, and then we had less and less need for people to physically deliver messages like that. So those people had to adapt, change jobs. That job no longer exists. There's a new entry level position. Hammer the phones. So
Yeah,
I feel
right.
like that is a similar kind of thing about this kind of almost industrial revolution of building AI into society, into security operation centers, because it really is going to change the way that we operate. Unfortunately, I don't. I hope that it's not eliminating like tier one entirely, but it is eliminating it as we know it today. Do you agree?
I totally agree, and I really like your analogy there. And I think yes, exactly that's what happens, especially with these like bigger technological changes. We cannot just change the technology, take the like AI SOC, throw it there, and it works. No, we need to change the whole cycle of people, processes, and technology. So they come following that, and I was just writing a piece on even how it's changing the way that we need to write playbooks, because most of the playbooks that we were writing back in the day, they were for humans to read. Now we need to make them so the AI can understand them, so they're machine readable and so on. So yes, it's just the role is changing as completely like what you do, but also the processes on how you were handling all of these things that they're changing as well. And as we need to be open and to adjust with that and not just be scared and wait, oh, AI will take over us. I
Yeah.
think it's more important how we can control and enable us, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're not getting on board, you're getting left behind for sure. And I feel bad for entry level people at the moment, but but we power through. We got to learn fast because it's changing very rapidly. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit, and I want to ask you about where people are at in terms of actually adopting this into SOCs today. In my mind, a lot of people, not a lot, but a good chunk of people have already either at least experimented with AI triage or have implemented it. Has it gone further than that? Do you think that people are adopting AI to actually do security responses now, to build these playbooks? Like, where are people at in terms of actually adopting it into their SOC right now?
As far as adaptation, from what I've seen myself, heard from peers and from vendors all around, where I'm still, so last year we were mainly, I would say, people a bit more skeptical, and they were like, "Oh, this is new technology. How will it work?" And they were like, "It's just another buzzword that vendors they're adding," and they were a bit skeptical to adopt it. I'd say this year, what I've seen more and more, they started to do proof of concepts, proof of values. They started to implement, to do some trials and so on. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more, and probably it will extend even to the next year. Of course, we have the early adopters of the technology, and I have been in that seat as well. I wanted to see how it's to be an early adopter, and now I'm seeing more and more of the larger enterprises as well that they started to adopt. I'd say the even though many of the solutions that we have seen, they were saying, oh, they're targeting like mid-size businesses, and it will be easier for them just do a plug and play solution. Those are the ones that I would say they still rely a lot on MDRs and MSSPs, because for them it's quite costly to transition to something else, try new technology. They don't have the headcount either. So, but larger enterprise, I think they're adopting faster than what many they were anticipating initially.
Hmm.
And also, I would say there's also a difference geographically. So the companies that are like US-based companies, they're adopting it way faster. Um, where here in Europe, it's a bit harder. And I'm hearing many of the European companies, enterprises, they're still like, oh, how we can do automation. We don't want AI to give everything to the AI, and we don't know where it sits and what it can do with its data. And I think it comes down to all the regulations that we have around like GDPR and how data is handled. So that's why we are probably lagging a bit about that. But I think that's where we have these solutions that they're hybrid solutions. We start to see more and more platforms that they allow you to bring your own LLM. So they try to adapt to the market as well. And how I'm seeing probably in the next 2 to 3 years, I think when it will start that larger transformation or adopting wave, because now we like everyone's just saying, oh, does it work? Once we have that confirmation, we gain the trust that it really works, then people start to adopt it. And as you were saying also, we started in the middle. Now we started to go more on the left side. It was like, okay, it can do investigation. Now let's see if it can build detections for us, if it can help us build a better data pipeline. And then it will start to move on the right side. In the right
Mm,
side, it's the one that it's lagging because there you need to have a lot of trust. And in the
trust,
end, AI might not be even the perfect solution for it because when you want to do some specific remediation, you want to have something deterministic. So you want to execute exactly in the steps that you want, and it doesn't happen every day that you need to do remediation. So you can, I would say, live with that oh, it won't invent a new way of how to do remediation, or it will save me a lot of time if I implement AI rather than automation.
right? Okay,
So
so you're
yeah.
saying even in the North American market, still firmly in the early adopter stage.
Yes, yes, that's how I'm seeing. But I would say it's growing more. There are more and more companies now. At least they're trying it. I think we need to pass through that. We are still at that, I would say, trial POC stage, and I
Yeah,
think this year it's the year dedicated for that,
right.
and probably first half of next one.
Okay, yeah. And the actual AI itself of what you're saying people are implementing would then be more in the AI triage kind of category.
I think that's where most will start. Um, Depending also on the maturity. I think the teams that are a bit more mature, they might start actually on the left side because it makes sense. First, you start to improve your detections, you see how it can build detections for you, and then you add it in the middle side to do triage. Also, it's depending how well the platform can do that feedback loop because you can throw the triage, but if it's just getting the same alerts and doesn't improve your detections, it's for nothing. It's just closing tickets faster, and that's not helping for anyone. You want to improve the detections, to build new detections, to catch new threats.
For sure. Okay. So, in terms of companies that you've maybe worked with or talked with who have actually done some of this AI triage and actually have implemented a little bit, what does that look like? Like, do they have a huge team of security analysts that they're working with, and then all of them get to use this AI and they're all being able to triage much faster? Or is it like small security teams, or what does this look like in practice?
So, I mean, I can give an example here at Sneak of some of the stuff that we are doing. So we are more like mid-size team. And what it did for us, we've been running for almost 8 to 9 months now. So I started like at the beginning of the year. It's clearly a force multiplier. So if we were able to close, let's say, or review 20 alerts per day, now we can do 150 alerts per day. And something else that I was explaining recently, and it got a lot of traction on LinkedIn on this topic, it was that how it's changing the way that we do detections. So previously we're like, okay, I can develop 5 detections because this will generate enough alerts that my team can handle. Now you have the bottleneck moved more on the right side, so you have AI in between, and you're like, okay, now I can develop 100 alerts because the AI can handle all of those, so then I can catch way more things. And that's what we're seeing. Our detections doubled in number. We can process way more alerts. And I would say yes, it was not that hard. It actually works well. Something that was really important in our process in our implementation was that we changed the processes. So when we've seen that how AI works, we were like, okay, let's change all our playbooks. Now we all the playbooks that we had for all the detections, we changed them so they are readable for the AI. So now the AI, when it goes, it doesn't just read, oh, if you see this specific activity, you know that it's false positive. Like, what does that even mean? You need to explain, this is the context, this is where you get, like, if this is a developer user, these are the things that you need to look at the log. So you need to give it more, a bit more, I'd say, explanation and data around it, so data points, so it can take a smart decision. It's been going is quite good. The results are clear. I would recommend it to anyone that haven't tried it. They definitely should at least try it. And for peers in my industry that they're in way larger organizations where they have, I would say, 50 or 100 person team in their security operations, they started to implement as well, but it's more to less intrusive in other words. So when you have like mid-size team, it's way easier to change the technology, change the processes. When you have very large team, you cannot be so intrusive. So they're taking more like step-by-step approach, taking, yeah, starting just with the middle, just with some specific use cases, and they're expanding it without larger interruption of their day-to-day work.
And what do you think is different with your, I mean, maybe not specifically your, but with an early adopting team in terms of mindset towards AI, what do you think is different there versus someone who hasn't adopted it yet?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking through it. What I would say changes a mindset is
Because I
that
think
now
that
we're,
I get a lot of people who
yes.
come up and say, like, we want faster mean time to response. We want our analysts to be able to work faster. We want to be able to triage faster. And then we're like, okay, let's talk about implementing AI into your SOC. And they're like, no, 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 no. So it's like, how do you think it is the what do you think is the mindset of a leadership team that is actually adopting AI into their SOC right now versus people who are like that and who do want these values, but then are like, nah, we're not going to implement AI yet.
The key here is to see the AI as bringing not just another technology, but let's take it as another team member to your organization. So it's the same thing. Like you bring someone new, you need to teach them, to show them around, to see, yes, how you're doing things in your organization. Then second thing is that you need to gain trust in them. You won't be like getting your junior analyst and trust them to do a full blown incident response or an APT investigation after the first month. So of course, is I think it applies the same principle, and we shouldn't see it as, okay, this AI is just something that it will replace all of us, and after 1 month we will be all like without jobs because it can do things better. The human element still it's quite critical. It's the liability in the end. Like you cannot go to a regulator or to auditor and say, oh, I just have AI SOC, I have zero personnel, it handles everything. And they'll say, well, you cannot pass the audit because that doesn't satisfy the requirements. You need to have actual person. So that being said, yes, you shouldn't see it as something that, oh, it'll just replace everything and it's analysts they'll see it as bad, or management should see it, oh, it will have incredible results, it will just run by itself. It's not full autonomy, we are not there. And yeah, see it as just bringing another team member. And I think if you start with that thought, it will be way easier to implement it, and you'll be way more realistic with the results that you expect out of it.
For sure. Yeah. So in terms of bridging into that then and actually starting to implement it and getting this value out of it, is it possible to find that sweet spot then of like fastest time to value and lowest maintenance effort and still all of the good benefits that come out of it and also still reducing your risk when implementing AI into your SOC?
I think that goes down with understanding your requirements, and I think is they're the same principle that they have been since, I don't know, since I've been in cybersecurity. On like, if you don't have clear requirements on what you want to bring to your organization, then when you go to evaluate the vendor, and even if you buy something, the expectations they won't be aligned because your requirements they were wrong. So I'd say don't start with, okay, we don't have, let's say, good detection engineering, so we bring platform because we think AI will solve our broken processes. Many they're saying, garbage in, garbage out. So,
Yeah.
and especially when it comes to automation, if you have bad processes and you bring automation, you will just be faster and better at doing bad things rather than getting better at it. And yes, AI, it's not just pure magic. It won't understand. It won't know all your thoughts, all your tribal knowledge. So yes, have clear requirement where you want to start rather than what it can fix, because that's, I think, not the right approach. Think of what processes you have running well, because you can get 10 times better results for those first, and then yes, expand in the areas slowly.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for people who are just starting out their evaluation processes then and figuring out what their AI specific requirements are?
I have yes detailed blog piece on that one. So, but what I would say if they want to like clear evaluation first is see where the main I would say as I was saying the most mature process that you have, and if you want to evaluate the platforms and understand them, which capabilities they cover the best. As I was saying, most of the platforms they would fall in one of these three buckets that they have. Some of them they fall in all, but doesn't mean that they are doing everything really good because as we know, the more capabilities that you cover, the chances that you're doing something very well, they're lower. So yeah, start with that, understand the platform if it's yes as I was saying like black box plug and play solution that you just connect it and it works, maybe that's what you're looking, or is it something that you want to customize it. I think that's really key for me. It's like how much transparency does the platform have? I think that's the actually the number one. I just realized number one is needs to be transparent. You need to know what the AI is doing. You cannot just bring AI to your organization and hope that it's does everything correctly, and you cannot have clear audit trail behind it.
Hmm.
So yes, needs to be transparent, and second, needs to have some level of customization because sooner or later, doesn't matter how mature is your security program, you'll arrive to some level of maturity. So save yourself, another round of doing evaluation of the vendors and pick something that it will serve you, in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Philip. If we want to find you and what you're working on online, where can we look?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can also check my blog. It's secops-unpacked.ai. So yes, you can find a lot of resources, most of the blogs that I'm writing there, and you can get in touch. And yes, thank you for having me today. It was great, just chatting, and it was great discussion.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put all of those links in the show notes then for people to check it out. I highly recommend Philip's blog because it is full of really good resources. I've read all of the articles, so I'll put the link in the show notes for you there. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.